This is the WealthAbility for CPAs show. Better clients, better practice, better life. Here's Tom Wheelwright.
Welcome to the WealthAbility show for CPAs, where we're always discovering how to build better clients, a better practice, and a better life. This is Tom Wheelwright, your host, founder, and CEO of the WealthAbility Network. So what if your clients could always be happy about your fees? Today, we're going to discuss and discover how to make every single conversation good news. See, the challenge is that when we look at conversations with our clients, we're typically looking at what we're afraid of, not what they're afraid of. So what if we put the shoe on the other foot and we said, what are they afraid of? Now, some people say, well, they're afraid of high taxes. Maybe. Some people say, well, they're, afraid of an IRS audit. Okay, fair. When it comes down to it, though, fundamentally, what they're most afraid of is a surprise. My experience, I've been doing this for 40 years, and my experience is what most clients are most afraid of is a surprise. Okay? If we tell them in December that they're going to owe taxes in April, they won't love it, but they're not afraid of it because they don't owe it. They've got time. They've got time to do something about it. They've got time to make a choice. Okay? They can figure out, where am I going to get that money? So what our number one goal in communicating with our clients and helping them to be happy is to keep them from ever having a surprise. How do we do that? Well, we do that by thinking forwards instead of backwards. As I like to say, our profession tends to always operate from its heels. And what if we operated instead from our toes with respect to client communication? So how do we do that? It's actually fairly simple. First of all, we have to communicate often with our clients. It cannot be once a year at tax time. It can't even be twice a year, once at tax time and once at the end of the year. We need to communicate with our clients. I'm going to say what I honestly believe, every month. Now, can that sometimes be a quick email? Yeah, sometimes it can. I think more often than not, it needs to be a phone call. So I have a client I work with. Y'all know that besides running the WealthAbility Network, I have a small CPA firm. And it's small from a number of client standpoint. It's not small from a billing standpoint. We're actually a pretty decent size from a billing standpoint. We have very select clients. So that's one of the things we've done to give us more time with the clients. And we have clients who really appreciate what we do. All right. So we've been very choosy about our clientele. So that is one thing. You can't do this with thousands of clients. You really can't. It's really hard to do with thousands of clients. So what do we have to do? We really have to communicate often. We have a client that every single month we have a call. And on that call is not just myself and my team. Also on the call is their bookkeeper. Also on the call is their attorney. Also on their call is the accountant who does the financial statements. Okay, I don't do the financial statements. We do the tax work. So we actually have 4 or 5 people on this call every single month. You got to imagine, that's a pretty hefty bill when you talk about, you got at least 4 people, probably 5 billing. The bookkeeper is a full-time employee, so they're really not billing separately. But the attorney's billing, and we've got at least 3 accountants that are billing. Why would a client do that? Well, you wouldn't believe what we're able to accomplish in 30 minutes to an hour with that team in place. And the benefit, so it's really, what's the benefit? First of all, there's never a surprise. When we first started working with them, oh my heavens, taxes were, because we were trying to get things done, we're trying to figure it out. And I'll tell you, this client was not a happy camper. Not a happy camper with us. So we started getting earlier and earlier and earlier and getting the tax work done. more importantly, we communicate it more and more often. Every single meeting, we start off by saying, here's where we are with the taxes. The other accountant, here's where we are with the financial statements. Okay, what's going on? So just having this communication by itself is priceless. I mean, we can, there's new ideas come up, new ways to save taxes, new ways to make money, and ideas come from the oddest places, right? I mean, so, one time I had an idea of where they could find salespeople. Okay, well, who thinks to ask their accountant that, right? But when you have the conversation, that's available to you. Now, does the conversation always have to be an hour? No, sometimes it can be 5 minutes. Are you going to bill for that 5 minutes? No, you're not. You're not going to bill for that 5-minute call. You call up the client, you're not going to bill for that 5 minutes. But you know what that does? That builds another bank account, what I call the goodwill bank account. And that bank account is equally important to the financial bank account. We've done a lot of goodwill bank account work, building during this pandemic. And we need to continue to do that. It's something we have to do. Now, here's what happens. As long as we're communicating ahead of time and we're on our toes, not our heels, what happens is that our clients don't get surprised billing. Everybody knows they don't want a surprise. They don't want to be told on April 14th that they owe $100,000 on April 15th. Everybody pretty much has figured that out. They also don't want to know, though, on April 15th that they owe $3,000 on their tax prep fees. They want to find that on April 15th. Okay? If you tell them, though, just like if you tell them they're going to owe $100,000 on April 15th and you tell them in January, that's a completely different conversation than it is on April 14th. The same thing's true with your fees. If you tell them ahead of time how much it's going to cost to prepare their tax return and get it in writing, make sure that that's a conversation. So don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of talking about it. Your fees are what your fees are. If they don't like the fees, they need to say now before we start the work. Where we get in trouble is we are the most passive-aggressive industry on the planet. I am convinced we are the most passive-aggressive industry on the planet. And one thing we could do better as a profession is to be upfront and transparent about our fees. Okay, just let people know. Here's what it's going to cost to do this. Well, I need you to reconcile all the intercompany transactions. Okay, we're happy to do that. Here's what it'll cost to do that. Are you okay with that? And I make that mistake. We continue to make that mistake. I will tell you, we're far from being perfect. We continue to make the mistake. Okay, and it continues to frustrate the daylights out of me. I'm going, look, we cannot ever give our client a surprise. Now, it also should always be good news. So my friend Andy Tanner, I just got off the phone with Andy, and Andy is one of the great salespeople from stage. I mean, truly amazing. He can just he just sucks money out of the room when he's on stage. And he can do the same thing in a webinar. Okay. He told me a long time ago, he said he was helping me with, cause I was doing some stage presentations where I made an offer at the end. And he said, Tom, price always must be good news. Let me give you an example of this. A number of years ago, we were working on a client's tax return, and I noticed that they'd done a lot of work on their building. And this was right when the repair regs had just come out. Okay. And so we really did need to look at the repair regs. I knew it was going to take some time. I absolutely knew it was going to take some time. So what did we do? Well, first of all, we kind of got an estimate of how much savings there would be if we could go through and really review their material and really look at the regs and make sure it was right. So we figured it would save them about $30,000 to $40,000. Okay. So I thought maybe a little more than that, but $30,000 to $40,000. We figured it would cost about $4,000. So I sent them I called them up and I said, what do you think? He said, I think we can save you $30,000 to $40,000, $30,000 on the low end, $40,000 on the high end. It will run about $4,000 in fees. Now, this was a very fee-sensitive client. The client said, sure, that's a great return on investment. So we did the work. Turned out to save $50,000, still cost $4,000. Okay. So what we did is we set the expectations up front very clearly, and we set the price up front. Most of us in our profession do not set the price up front. We're afraid, it might take more time. Well, so it takes more time. So you made a bad estimate. I mean, think about everybody in construction. We've all had construction clients, right? They lose on some jobs because they made a bad estimate. We're going to do the same. What I want to do is I want us to be businessmen, business people, okay? I want us to be entrepreneurs. I want us to not just be accountants. Let's take our profession and turn it into a profession of entrepreneurs who do accounting and tax and consulting. Why do we want to relegate ourselves to be accountants? I don't think that's really where we provide the most value. But in order to do that, we have to look at our business the way we like other people to look at their business. For example, if you get your car repaired, you don't want them to tell you, by the way, I know you came in for an oil change and that was supposed to be $59.95. We noticed that you needed new tires and that you needed, a bunch of other stuff, and it'll be $1,325. I don't think we want that, do we? Or we don't want to go to the dentist and say, I need to repair your teeth. And we're going to say, okay, you know what dentists do? They're really good at this. They always let you know how much it's going to cost. It'll cost this much to do this procedure. They're really good at that. The dental profession is the best of all of the service professions in that. Outside of now, auto mechanics have figured this out. Why can't we figure it out? So one of the things you'll notice that with the example I gave you with the repair reg situation is that we under-promised and over-delivered. So we told them what the fees would be, and we made sure we covered ourselves on that. So you under-promise the amount of the fees. You make sure you don't promise them it's only going to cost $500 when it could cost you $3,000. You don't do that. You under-promise, which means it could cost you $4,000 to $5,000. And then if you charge them $3,500, guess what? Price is good news. We're going to save you $30,000 to $40,000. You save them $50,000. Guess what? Good news. So every conversation can be good news if we set the expectations up front. But if we're not setting the expectations up front, guess what? They're going to set the expectation. And we have no control over it. And those of you who know me know that I'm big on a little bit of control, right? Maybe a lot of control. Youngest of 6 children. Well, we can control what we do. We can control what we tell the client. We can control how we create our messaging to our clients. I know it's not our strong suit. Communication is not the strong suit of the CPA. We're really good with numbers. Clients do want tax savings. They do want good service. They don't want surprises. And what I know is, from my experience, is that when price can't always be good news. I've learned. Andy Tanner taught me, and I practice over and over. Do I always do it right? Nope, I don't. I make mistakes. Okay? One of the most important things we need to be able to do is say, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I thought it was going to take 5 hours and it took 8 hours. Okay? Now, am I going to bill you for that 8 hours? Nope. Am I going to bill you for more than 5? I'm going to ask you, would you be okay if we did this? Because we have to give the client a choice. We have to allow the client to choose. Do they want us to do the work? Not. Do they want, is it worth it to them to pay those fees or not? Do we need their business or not? We don't need their business. We do it because we choose to, because we have a good relationship. We're not passive aggressive. Instead, we're transparent. We're upfront. We do things to serve our clients. I don't think there's another industry, maybe nursing and pharmacy. Okay, those are the two other industries that I think are at least as good as we are, and maybe even better. I can't think of another industry that cares more about its clients than we do. Do we care enough to be transparent, to set expectations, and to make it easier for them? When I say, people say, "Oh, you're making price good news. Oh, you're setting these expectations. Oh, you're manipulating the client." Let me tell you, you're manipulating the client when you don't. You're absolutely manipulating the client. And you're manipulating them to be unhappy. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I happen to know that a lot of our clients listen to the CPA podcast. I know that we have clients listening right now to the WealthAbility for CPAs podcast. They're looking, behind the curtain, right? I want all those clients to know. I want you to know that we need to be transparent. I want you to ask us to be transparent. I want you to ask us to set the expectations. I don't think that's your job as the client. I think that's our job. I don't think it's your job to come to us with questions. I think it's our job to ask you questions. Okay, I think that we have a much bigger responsibility than we've normally taken on. And I think if we take on that responsibility and we take it on our toes, not our heels, I think we're going to be happier. And I know our clients will be happier. I know clients are happy when they get information early. I know, look, what if we actually all year long monitored their tax situation? Now, we need to ask them, are you interested in us monitoring your tax situation? Here's how much it's going to cost, right? If you are, okay, great. Then here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have it at least once a quarter, and it's going to be at least 2 weeks before your estimated payment is due. Does that work for you? Yes. Are you willing to set that time on your schedule? Yes, because we're always asking their permission. Because when we ask their permission, when we set the expectations, when we're not passive aggressive, when we're operating off our toes and not our heels, when we are always making price good news, and we are literally always having positive communications with our clients, even when it's a tough one and we need to admit that we made a mistake, that can still be a positive communication. When we do all that, I absolutely guarantee, think about it. Won't you have better clients? Won't you have a better practice? And won't that provide a better life? See you next time.
You've been listening to the WealthAbility for CPA show. Better clients, better practice, better life. To learn more, go to WealthAbility.com.